December 3rd. It's a regular general meeting night. The doors are going to open at 5:30 instead of 7 o'clock. We're going to provide all the food for everybody. We're not going to ask for anybody to bring side dishes. We're going to get a cake from Giant Food Stores. They have really good cake. We're going to provide sheet cake for everybody. So we don't want none of your, we're going to take care of everything. We want to be nice to everybody. Now, we're working on some really nice stuff to throw up on the raffle table.
Flush plecos.
The plush plecos. We're also going to be giving away, I want 3, but we haven't talked about it. 3 2016 memberships that you can get on the raffle, so you won't have to pay for the whole membership next year. Don't forget, we're also doing tank spotlights. If you want to talk about your tanks, how you're breeding your fish or whatever, we're going to have all the equipment here, so all you have to do is put your stuff on the flash drive. Come in and show us what you're doing at home. A few of us are going to do it. I'm sure Tom's going to do it. I'm going to put something together. I'm sure a few of the other board members will be doing that. So, member spotlight. Elections are coming up. We nominate tonight, right? I think we nominate tonight, and then we vote next month. So, vice president is going to be, we have a nomination of Ryan Riley, who stepped up because John Ward was mom, and everything's at the fan here. Can't do it anymore. So Ryan's going to step up. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, secretary is open. I need a secretary. The duties of the secretary is basically just take notes at the board meetings, minutes, and then publish them to all the board members. Put them in the email and just send there. We need your help. We need people to get involved. It's simple task. Nobody's going to, hold you to everything. You just get involved. So if you think you want to help out, come see one of the board members. Tasha, me, Ryan, Tom Galuli. We all do all the board meetings every month, so we all know what's going on. Josh Weigart is here tonight. Batfish Aquatics. And Bert. Talk about vertebrate animals in the aquariums. Stuff like that.
So today I'm talking about something a little bit different, aquatic vertebrates for the aquarium, which is actually kind of a misnomer because everybody keeps vertebrates in their aquarium. Fish are vertebrates, but obviously I'm not talking about fish. I'm talking about the rest of the vertebrates. This is what I'd like to call the landlord test. Imagine you're renting an apartment, and in the lease it says you can have no pets, but an aquarium is okay. The landlord comes in and sees that. It's not going to fly, but maybe some of these other things you might be able to get away with. Now, this also is a different type of aquarium. This is called a paludarium. It's about half water and half land. And this also, for me, does not pass that landlord test. It's a very, very specialized type of environment, and it's not something which really I want to get into in this particular talk. Now, a lot of the different animals we'll talk about today, they do eat fish, but that just means you have to be a little bit smart about choosing which fish you put them in with. And next thing is they have to have a reasonably easy diet. Whatever you're feeding them has to be basically something which you've probably already got more or less for the fish. Something that's going to take live crickets or other weird foods like that, I just chopped off the list. So first thing to talk about are frogs. Now, during the spring, you guys probably see these guys a lot for about $2.99 or so. They're just tadpoles. They're sold by the bajillions every single spring. People put them into their ponds or their fish tanks. And this is going to be a big surprise for y'all. Tadpoles turn into frogs. Frogs do this thing which fish don't do. They hop, and they hop away. You put these guys into a pond, and they will generally kind of disappear. That's kind of a big problem with them. The tadpoles can, though, be kept in a fish tank for a while. They're fully aquatic. They're going to eat pretty much anything you put in there. They'll graze off of spirulina tablets, they'll eat fish food, they'll eat blackworms. Unfortunately, they will eat each other, and they will eat small fish. Bullfrogs are a very, very large frog. They're one of the largest frogs in the world, and they're North America's, I think, second largest frog. These guys are going to need live food, and they will eat anything they can stuff in their mouths. There are a couple of frogs which we can keep in a fish tank. This is an African clawed frog. They're called this because, one, they come from Africa, and two, they have these kind of bony ridges on the ends of their front fingers, which kind of look like claws. They are probably the most commonly sold aquatic frog you're going to find. One thing to keep in mind about the African clawed frog is they get very, very big. This is actually not a fully grown one, and that is an adult man's hand. That's a pretty big-sized frog. And I want to give you a quick lesson on frog anatomy here. This applies to pretty much all frogs. They got these swimmy things over here. That's a leg. It's another leg. They got the front legs. There's his eyes, his mouth. The rest of him is stomach. If he thinks he can eat it, he will eat it. If it turns out he can't eat it, he's still going to try. These guys are actually very, very easy to breed in the aquarium. Like I said, they're fully aquatic, so you can keep multiple ones in the aquarium. One thing to keep in mind, they will eat each other. Make sure they're roughly the same size. If they're not well fed, they will eat each other's legs, which is somewhat unfortunate. They are illegal to sell in a number of states. Virginia is one. I think Maryland is restricting this particular frog, and some other ones. They can handle really cold temperatures. They can handle freezing. They don't care. People buy these cute little frogs, and they put them in their fish tank, and it's not so cute and little, I don't have any fish. They literally eat anything that they can stuff in their mouth. They have a wonderful sense of smell. Any sinking pellets, like catfish pellets, even the spirulina pellets they'll eat, blackworms or earthworms, or really any sinking carnivore pellet is perfect for them. So these guys are, in my opinion, a better pick for most fish tanks. They're the dwarf African frogs. They very, very often, the pet stores will mix these guys together, and they'll be about the same size. And you got the big one. These guys are actually pretty easy to tell apart. First off, they don't have claws. Their front hands, feet, appendages are webbed, whereas the clawed frogs are not webbed. Generally going to be okay with most fish. Say goodbye to things like baby guppies or things that sized. Most other fish, no problem. This is a photo of a tank where they're sharing it with neon tetras. Neon tetras are not a particularly big or fast fish, and no problem. They're very, very easy to breed. It's actually kind of interesting having a breeding population of them because they chirp all night long. They're very, very easy to tell apart. If you look under the armpit, the males have this little bump, which is a gland. These guys are also invasive. Now, they're smaller, so they're not eating all the fish, but they are eating things like dragonfly larvae, which turn into dragonflies, which eat all of our mosquitoes. They're eating other aquatic insects and other stuff which basically form the base of the food chain. We're going to talk about turtles. The most common turtle is the red-eared slider. This is the turtle. You go into any pet store in the United States and ask them if they have turtles. They'll take you to a tank and show you red-eared sliders, I guarantee it. Anybody who is older than I probably remembers when they used to sell them like the ones in the top picture. Now they sell them like the ones in the bottom picture where they're a little more grown up. The little baby ones are not legal to be sold anymore. Now, I always have somebody who's going to tell me that they are legal, that there's some sort of loophole or something like that. There is no loophole. If you know a guy who is selling them on the street corner in Chinatown or out of the back of his store or whatever, or is telling you that he's selling them for educational purposes, he's breaking the law. And not just the law, it's a federal law. These guys, you'll generally see them for sale at about 4 inches. I'm not saying that you can't find babies. I'm saying you shouldn't. Females only, or one male by himself. That's not to say you can't breed them if you have a large enough enclosure. But just like with fish, the female needs a place to get away from the male's attention. These guys also do need a place to bask. They need a place to get out of the water and sit under a heat lamp. They also need something called UVB. This can be from natural sunlight or a special UV bulb. If you do not have a UV bulb on these guys, their shells start getting a little bit soft. Their bones get a lot soft. And they start getting mouth-shaped a little bit. And then in addition to the stink pot, we have about 30-ish species of musk turtle of varying sizes, most of which are only about 6 to 8 inches maximum. And they're all basically the same. Stink pots do not like to be handled. 2 things are going to happen to you if you try to handle a stink pot. One, he's going to bite you. And when they bite you, they don't let go. Ever. I think I still have one on me from about 2 years ago. Now, they will hang on for hours and hours and hours and hours. The only way I've ever found to get them to let go is to ice them. You take an ice pack or a couple of packs of ice, and eventually the turtle says, "I'm cold," and lets go. The other thing that's going to happen to you if you try to handle one is you're going to find out why they call them stink pots or musk turtles. They have glands which release a musk, and it stinks. Now, these guys are soft shells. They are probably the best choice for an aquarium if it's really big. They're going to get to 18 inches or more. That's a little more than a 75 or a 90 gallon can handle. But if you're willing to give them a big tank, they're a great choice because they're fully aquatic. They like to swim. So they really, really need a big pool or something. These guys will eat any fish they can catch, and they're fast swimmers. These guys generally will not eat fish which are too big for them to handle or too small. One of the really surprising things about snapping turtles, you think of them as this big, mean turtle, right? If you actually catch them in the wild and do gut analysis, like 98% of their diet is vegetable. They get big. They get really big. This is a mata. It's basically a snapping turtle from the Amazon. They don't get particularly big, only about 16 inches. You put this turtle in a tank, and it's right there. You come back in 2 weeks, it's right there. They are ambush predators. They're very well camouflaged. And because they're ambush predators, they have their spot, and they just sit there. They do eat fish, but the maximum size means you could probably keep one of these in something like a 75 gallon. This is a tentacle snake. They are one of the very, very few true aquatic snakes out there, other than the sea snakes that'll kill you. They are a true piscivore. They will eat nothing but live fish. You can keep them with larger live fish, things like big gouramis and angelfish, but anything molly-sized or smaller is going to be eaten. What's interesting about them is we tend to think of snakes as being very, very solitary. If you ever see these available, do not buy one. One of them will just kind of hang out and probably never eat and die. They're social. They need to be kept in a group of at least 3 of them. They do very, very well in a plantain tank. They like to hide in the plants, in the wood, and things like that. These guys are everybody's favorite. They're actually a neotenic salamander larvae. Neotenic is a very, very fancy word which basically means childlike. In this case, they look like a salamander larvae, and they retain that look their entire life. They are never going to turn into a salamander. Keep their gills, they stay in the water, and eventually as they mature, they develop sexual organs. Salamander larvae do not have those. But young ones will try to eat each other when they're the same size. I've had smaller ones try to eat larger ones. The big thing about them is they need cool water. You keep these guys at room temperature and they will die. Now, I say tank mates with caution, not only because they might eat them, but there's something very, very important to notice about these guys. Yeah, I can point with my shadow. These gills here are very, very long and feathery. They're incredibly attractive to fish. It's like the long fins on a betta or an angelfish or something like that. You put fish in with these guys, and they may not ever eat the fish. But the fish are going to look at those gills and say, "What's that?" And fish explore things only one way, by trying to eat it. The gills are basically that guy's lungs. I don't know about you, but the idea of having something picking at my lungs sounds rather unpleasant. So definitely do not keep them with fish. They need a big cool down. I said you don't keep them any warmer than 70 year round, but if you really want to breed them, you got to chill them down for a couple months to 40 degrees or less. Looks very, very similar to an axolotl. Now, water dog is a very, very different animal. Because if you buy a water dog, do you know what you have in 6 months? Tiger salamanders are not even remotely aquatic. They live underground. I've kept these guys, and basically they dig down in the soil, and you have a hole somewhere. And you drop an earthworm in the hole, and this thing comes up, grabs the earthworm, and goes back down. Now, as I said, they're incredibly similar. I got a shipment of axolotls that I sort of kind of forgot to put on my list for way too long. And it was a fortuitous thing because my axolotls turned into tiger salamanders. It happens a lot. Water dogs and tiger salamanders are illegal to sell. So this is an amphiuma. They're sometimes sold as conger eels. They're sometimes sold as Congo eels. About 30 inches. They're mean. They're extremely predatory. Remember what I said about nothing eating those clawed frogs? He doesn't care. They will literally eat anything. Depending on which species of siren you get, and there are many of them, they get to about 12 inches or so. They're fully aquatic. One of the neat things I found out about them is they actually like to burrow. If you keep them in sand, they'll burrow and make little caves, and they are semi-social, and they're really adorable. They will eat small fish. They will not eat bigger fish. They'll eat pellets, anything else. They're very, very easy to keep. I have them on my list. Newts are very, very commonly sold in most stores. Pretty much every aquarium store sells newts. If you're into newts, if you like newts, get them now. The reason I'm saying this is because there is pending legislation. Remember what I said about the salamanders spreading the fungus infection? There's pending legislation which is going to make it extraordinarily difficult to ship them across state lines and to bring them into the country. You're going to need various inspections and things like that. So they're mostly aquatic. There's a lot of different species of them, and we'll talk about some of the species. But first off, generally, if you're going to keep newts, you're going to need a lid. They can climb out of the tank. They will not live very long out of water. You're also going to need to give them some sort of land to come out on. Depending on which species, it doesn't need to be much. My good friends at ZooMed sell this floating dock, which I love. It's got 2 suction cups and a little riser, so it stays right with the water level. So this is the fire belly. He's probably our most common newt. You guys can see why they call him a fire belly. They're going to reach about 4 inches. Generally, they're going to sell pretty cheap. They might go up in price as they start becoming harder to get. But generally, you're going to pay under $10 for a fire belly newt. And $10 is probably an expensive one. They may eat small fish. Most of mine are being pretty lazy. Don't really bother fish. The big thing about them is they really don't want to be kept in a tropical fish tank. Room temperature is a little bit on the warm side for them. They'll handle it, but a tropical tank, 78, 76, it's kind of pushing it for them. Very often you'll find these guys mixed in with the fire belly newts, so you want to be able to tell a difference on them. They're a little bit more expensive usually, but like I said, a lot of stores mix them and the clerks can't tell the difference. They just like, it's a newt. These guys get a lot bigger. They'll get to about 6 to 8 inches. The big difference on these guys is look at the tail, paddle tail. It's very, very wide, whereas on these guys, not so wide. These guys are really aggressive. I got a couple of these guys in with my fire bellies, and they were eating the fire bellies. A little less aquatic than the fire bellies. They want a little more land. It's not a really showy blue. It actually doesn't even show in this picture. It's kind of a slate blue, kind of a gray blue, kind of a use your imagination blue. Very, very peaceful. They're not going to eat your fish. If they eat a fish, the fish was probably dead or dying. They also don't really like to come out of the water very much. You give them a little floating island, they'll hang out on it once in a while. The reason why I like these guys, they're tropical. So this one is our native newt. You find them, God, everywhere. I actually almost never find the adults, but I find the juveniles. The juveniles look nothing like this. A juvenile is what's called an EFT, E-F-T. They are kind of a negative of these guys. They're bright red with green spots, whereas these are green with bright red spots. You generally find them in really, really weedy, weed-choked streams and places like that. What's weird about these guys is the only time I've seen adults in the wild is under the ice. Males, really, really cool. They get long crests along the back. And they're a nice, fun newt to try to keep if you want to collect them yourself. So this is my favorite newt, the Iberian rib newt, or just the plain rib newt. It's a big newt. They reach 12 inches or more, and they're fat. Interesting for these guys, what I found one of the best foods that they seem to love is pleco pellets, which are very rich in spirulina. They have a very interesting anti-predator mode. If you've ever picked up a toad and had it puff up, these guys do that, but they take it one step further. Their ribs expand and poke out through their skin and become spines. It's kind of like a puffer fish where, yeah, it's really cool they do that. Don't make them do that. But it is very, very stressful. And it's also very easy to break through ribs. The crested newt. There's a lot of different species. You're going to have to go to a reptile show or a very specialized source for these guys to find them. They're going to be expensive. I had a pair of these guys that I paid $100 each for. They're also not going to look like that. That is a mature breeding male. When he is not breeding and he's not mature, it's basically impossible to tell them apart from an eastern newt. But depending on which species you get, they get those big crests on them and look like a miniature dinosaur.
Once, twice, sold for 2 right here. I have TKG, I think it's a 7. It is Cryptolaceae, about 50 pounds of it. My arm is getting tired, it's a bit fast. Let's start off with $2 in the crib, $2 in the crib, $2. Got 2 here, leave 3, leave 3, leave 3, 3. 4, leave 4, 3 once. 4, I got 4, 5, leave 5, leave 5. 4 once, twice. WBG1, a pair of mollies. They are orange sailfins, black fins. Nice sailfin mollies. $2 in the mollies, $2 in the mollies. Got 2 over here, look 3. Once, twice, sold 2. JC11, Daphnia magna. Looks like there's at least a few breeders in the back. $2 minimum, we'll start at $2. 2, 3, 4. Once, twice, so 4. RJC number 1, 5 black lace angels. These guys are nice ones too. Shorter body, good fins on them. Batfish, $5 for the angels. Got 5 max over here. 7, 8, 9. 9 once. 10. 12, 12. 12 once. Twice. Stolen, $12. Look for 7. Once. Twice. Somebody called the police. He stole it. Sold, $6. The background is worth more than that. $5 starting, $5 starting. $1 starting. I'll do $2. Once, twice. Just get making around some. Yep. The sold to me is $2.